Welcome to my garden and welcome to my channel, Saying Yes to Life. If this is your first time here with me, I'm so happy you've joined me, and I come to you twice a week from my garden here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. And if you've returned, I'm here to share some thoughts with you that I had a lot of fun thinking about. You know, we've all heard the truism, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And you know, the whole definition of a truism is we don't question it. We just think, oh yeah, that's obvious. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. But I remember back in my 20s, which is a long time ago now, I had a good friend who said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. I was like, what? Everybody knows that's not how it goes. But made me think. It made me question. And I love that. I love that when I come across a new idea that makes me question something that I actually never questioned before. And so I've decided to explore this a little bit more today with you and see what you think about it. You know, when we're little, we don't think twice about trying new things. We fall down hundreds of times before we can walk successfully. We babble and babble before we can actually say words and talk. We spill food everywhere while we're trying to feed ourselves. We don't think anything of it. We do it all with delight. But as adults, things are different. We start believing that if we can't do something well, maybe we just shouldn't do it at all. And we lose our natural courage that we're born with to be beginners. So way back in 1910, in a book called What's Wrong with the World, the writer, G.K. Chesterton, said something that might sound strange at first, which is, if a thing is worth doing, it is worth doing badly. So that's where that idea came from originally, was from him. Now, he didn't mean that we should be careless or lazy. What he meant is that if something truly matters, if it's worth doing at all, then it's worth doing it even if we're doing it imperfectly. And of course, we learn by doing. Everything we've ever learned began with doing it badly. So the context in which Chesterton was writing was he was living in England and he was criticizing a growing industrial and professional mindset that said only specialists should do things, and that if you can't do something well, you shouldn't do it at all. So he was at that time defending the human and spiritual importance of doing things for yourself, even if it's imperfect. Cooking your own food, singing your own songs, raising your own children, rather than outsourcing everything to experts. Now, he was saying that over 100 years ago, and I think it applies very much now as well. So this phrase, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, is a celebration of an ordinary person's engagement with life, not an excuse for mediocrity. And this is a theme that really resonates with me, and of course with my theme of saying yes to life. Just think about every new parent. If it's their first baby, they're thrown right into the deep end. How do you hold this tiny, squirming little being who might start crying at any moment? And how do you manage to juggle everything to change a diaper, especially when you're removing a dirty one and you're trying to contain the mess? It's not easy. But you don't get to wait until you're good at it. You have to start because that little one is depending on you. And so you do it poorly at first, but you do it with love. And before long, you get better. And that's how we all learn. I once knew a woman who was born without arms. She just had small fingers at her shoulders. And yet, she became a mother. And she somehow learned to care for her baby herself, to feed and dress him, to hold him close, all without arms. And she had learned to use her feet for nearly everything, even creating beautiful artwork with them. So I imagine she must have cared for her baby with her feet as well. Can you imagine the courage that that took? She didn't wait until it was easy or convenient. I'm sure she did it poorly at first, and eventually she did it beautifully. So this truth shows up everywhere in life, especially in my life. I think of it in music. Music has always been a part of every culture, but in our modern world, so many people have decided that they can't sing. And so music has become something to listen to instead of something to join in. And that's why I started teaching a class for adults who think they can't sing. At first, in this group, we don't even sing. We just play. We use our voices expressively, like saying, "Wow, that's amazing." And then they repeat me, "Wow, that's amazing." And then they notice they're not tone deaf after all. They already move their voices up and down in everyday speech. And so I worked with this group week by week. They become braver and they begin to do things better. And the amazing part, and I respect them so much for this, they're willing to do it poorly as an adult, to make funny sounds, to experiment, to laugh. And before long, they're actually singing. And you can only imagine how much joy they have as they learn to sing when they really believed they couldn't, and then singing together as part of a group. They don't need to be professional singers to experience the joy of singing. And they may never become great singers, as in performers, but that's okay. They get to participate in something that is such a deep human activity. They just needed the courage to begin. And of course, this lesson is very personal for me too. As you know, I'm living in Ecuador, where Spanish is the primary language. So I'm working at learning Spanish. And I'll be honest, I'm not good at it. Not at all. But it's important to do because it connects me with the people here and the culture. So fortunately for me, the Ecuadorians are wonderfully patient and encouraging, even when I'm completely inept. My progress is a lot slower than I'd like it to be, but at least I can see progress. Sometimes I joke with myself. I say, "How hard can it be? Even all the little kids here can do it." And I know I may never be truly fluent, but I also know this, that learning Spanish is worth doing, even though I'm doing it poorly. So whether it's parenting, creating art, speaking a new language, gardening, or learning to sing, we don't need to be experts at the daily activities of life. We just need to be participants, to be alive and curious and willing to show up and try. Saying yes to life means saying yes to the wobbly beginnings, the awkward starts, and the brave first steps, and the falling down. Because anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So thank you for joining me today. And I just invite you to notice what you might be willing to try in your life if you're willing to do it imperfectly. Thanks for joining me.